Right, let's get straight into it. So, what happens when disinformation isn't just about spreading lies, but about actually creating cover for war crimes? Well, a really fascinating investigation by Coda Story has pulled back the curtain on this sophisticated Russian strategy they're calling the Alibi Machine. And today, we're going to break down exactly how this thing is built and how it's being used. This quote right here, it just gets to the absolute heart of the matter. The goal isn't just to win an argument online. It's to create a fog so thick, so confusing, that the very idea of a single objective truth just vanishes. This isn't just some abstract theory, it's being used as a weapon. And we're about to see how it was deployed during a real-world atrocity. Okay, so our story begins here. Mariupol, March 2022. I'm sure you remember the scenes. The whole world was watching as this city was under siege, and it became the proving ground for a new and, well, a deeply insidious kind of information weapon. So first up, let's examine the crime scene itself. The incident everyone knows is the bombing of the Mariupol maternity hospital, but the real crime we're digging into today is the construction of what this report calls an information alibi. So on one side, you've got the hard facts of the attack itself, but then almost immediately you have these two completely different narratives being pushed out. And notice something. They're totally contradictory. The hospital was a military base, or the attack was staged by crisis actors. The details don't even matter, because both stories are designed to lead you down the exact same path to the exact same conclusion. Russia is not to blame. And this, right here, brings us to the core concept of the whole investigation, the information alibi. Now, the key word to focus on here is preemptive. This is so crucial. This is not a reactive denial, scrambling for an excuse after the fact. No, this is a deliberate strategy of planting a false story before an event even happens, creating this ready-made excuse that they can just switch on later. So you might be thinking, how do we know Mariupol wasn't just a one-off, a fluke? Well, we know because investigators uncovered a systematic, repeatable playbook. A pattern that has been used time and time again. And the playbook is, well, it's pretty simple when you break it down. Step 1, you seed the information landscape with the story you're going to tell later. You accuse your opponent of planning the very thing that you yourself are about to do. Step 2, you carry out the actual physical attack. And finally, step 3, you hit go on your pre-planted narrative, pointing back to your own fake warnings as so-called proof. And here you can really see that pattern in action, laid out across years and completely different conflicts. Just look at the sequence. Syria back in 2018, claims of a fake chemical attack right before a real one happens. Then you see it with the Mariupol theater, the Lenivka prison, and the Kakhovka Dam. In every single case, the physical attack was preceded by an information campaign that was already setting the stage. But here's the thing about machines. Even the most sophisticated ones can sometimes glitch. And that brings us to the missile strike on the Kramatorsk train station, a horrific attack that killed dozens of civilians, but it also left behind a crucial digital fingerprint. Okay, look very closely at the timing here. The official Russian state news agency posted about the attack at 10:25 a.m. The missiles, they didn't actually hit the station until 10:30 a.m. It's a sloppy 5-minute mistake. It's a digital smoking gun that proves the information campaign wasn't just reacting to the news, it was an integral part of the attack plan from the very beginning. So, if this is a coordinated machine, who's actually pulling the levers? The investigation then pivots to the network itself, mapping out exactly how it's built, from the architects of the strategy all the way down to its online foot soldiers. What the investigators found was a pretty clear hierarchy. Right at the top, you've got the brain in the presidential administration, the ones directing the whole strategy. Then you have the Megaphone. These are the official spokespeople who give the false narratives that stamp of state-sanctioned legitimacy. Below that, there's the engine, a whole bunch of state-linked agencies that just mass-produce the content. And at the bottom, an army of bloggers and online influencers who create the solution of grassroots organic support. Now let's take a closer look at that engine room. You've got these two key players, and they have very different jobs. On one hand, you have A&O Dialogue, which is all about the domestic audience, managing this insane network of over 100,000 social media pages. And then you've got the Social Design Agency, or SDA, and they're focused on foreign audiences, creating disinformation specifically designed to spread in the West as part of that now sanctioned Doppelganger campaign. So this all brings us to the central argument of the Coda Story investigation.
what if this isn't just propaganda? What if it's actually participation in a crime? The report explores a potential and pretty groundbreaking legal pathway for prosecution.
This quote from an international lawyer really draws a critical line in the sand. Propaganda, information operations, they're generally lawful in conflict. But he's arguing that the right to free speech ends when that speech becomes an operational tool of a crime. At that moment, it stops being just speech, it becomes participation.
And it turns out there's a potential legal tool to prosecute that very participation. Article 25 of the Rome Statute. This is what governs the International Criminal Court. And it specifically criminalizes making a significant contribution to a crime when it's committed by a group that's acting with a common purpose.
So to actually get a conviction, a prosecutor would need to prove these three things. First, that a war crime, like bombing a hospital, actually happened. That's step one. Second, that the people involved were all part of a coordinated group working together. And third, that the disinformation campaign made a significant contribution to that crime, maybe by creating just enough confusion to allow the perpetrators to escape accountability.
Okay, so let's bring this all home. Why does really getting our heads around the alibi machine matter so much? What are the real-world implications of this whole investigation?
Well, this is the crucial takeaway. What we're witnessing here is the evolution of disinformation. It is no longer just a support function for a military operation. It is part of the military operation. It's become a fully integrated weapon, one that's designed to manufacture impunity right from the very start.
And that really leaves us with a massive question, doesn't it? If lawyers and investigators can successfully argue that creating an informational alibi is a prosecutable contribution to a war crime, well, that could fundamentally change the rules of engagement, not just on the physical battlefield, but in the information war that now comes with every single modern conflict.